If you were interested in the 3.6 characters, these reruns might actually kill you further if you do not already have them. If you're someone that wanted to invest in them with their light cone or potentially early dupes, this actual update is going to be brutal. Starting it off, because this is not confirmed info, so it's not like in the stream, it's best you do wait till when they do have the official live stream for 3.6. Where they will officially announce who is rerunning in 3.6, and that's how you will know for sure that these are the characters to be rerunning. This is info circulating the internet. Even though it is by someone reliable, it could end up being different. Could be the same plus more. It could be turned into a triple rerun even, or one of them could be subbed out, or it could just be neither. So the best thing you could do is wait. So even though this is reliable info, take it with a grain of salt. You just mainly are going to use this to consider if you were planning on them. So as we do know, first half was going to be Evernight, and the character that seems to be rerunning with Evernight is none other than probably the character that she's going to be the best team on is Castress. That means for the first half, it is most likely going to be Evernight plus Castress, which is really funny because from what we do know on how Evernight works, it seems like Evernight kind of just is the best in slot for Castress teams. So if you're interested in Evernight, you wanted to pull for Castress, you're now going to have to pull for Evernight plus Castress, and then, probably consider the light cones because, Remembrance is kind of rough when it does come to light cones. Castress is definitely a character that wants to get her light cone much more than other characters, and then Evernight herself, I don't really know the calcs just yet, but is probably going to be another character that gets an insane jump with the light cone, and the next best option is probably going to be Castress because, both of them HP scaling, both of them memo spray, all that kind of stuff. So I would not be surprised if these two characters end up being the goal for people to also get the light cone for, because not having the light cone for these characters is very rough. When Castress released and when Castress is being used, and even now really, people are just using the highest base HP light cones because that's really all the options there are. There's really not that many good options outside of her own signature light cone, unfortunately, and that's still the case. So if you are someone that wanted to get Evernight and maybe even get Castress for the team so you can run them together because that is seeming to be the best in slot team, you now are going to have to pull for both. Sucks even further because the early vertical investment in both these characters are insane. As I was already talking about, the light cone for both of these characters are going to be big jumps. Evernight E1 is seeming to be insanely broken, and her E2 is also seeming to be really good if you want to consider that as well. As I mentioned again, Castress light cone, that also applies to her, and then Castress E1 and E2 are really good. E1 a bit less so, it's still good, it's a good damage increase, but it's mainly a stepping stone to E2. E2 is insanely broken, a free 2 actual dragon breaths that you do get when you do all for the first time, and also you get to action advance Castress to get a skill off before the dragon goes. So you get to ult, and then Castress gets another turn, you get the skill, and then you get to use the Dragon Breath, where you get to use 2 charges without consuming HP. So you can level it up and then consume HP, which is, a really big damage increase for Castress. So the fact they decided to run these two characters together, both of them wanting their light code, both of them having insanely good vertical investment in dupes, is going to be very brutal on people's wallets. And for the second half, we have the new Danheng. Even though there is info going around about him being free, he does also have some pretty good vertical investment with his light cone, early dupes, and so on. And the character seeming to rerun with him is going to be Anaxa. So this really just means they're rerunning the entire anniversary patch just in this patch. They already did it with the 3.0 patch. I think it was with Hyacine and Cypher. When Hyacine and Cypher released, they reran the Herda and Aglia, so they're doing the same thing. Really funny, these characters are rerunning before Rappa gets her first rerun, before other characters get their second rerun. Mide seems to just be forgotten, I guess. At this point, we're going to see a Finon rerun before we see a Mide rerun or a Rappa rerun. But yes, the second half with Danheng does seem to be Anaxa, which is also going to be really brutal because I do know a lot of people ended up regretting, not picking up his light cone, because they really slept on his potential, and he kind of is the best DPS in the game. I'm not going to really expand on that because, again, most people are not ready for that conversation. But yeah, majority of people have seen his potential and how he is really not the character that you want to tie to the Herda. While he is still technically the best partner for the Herda, he really shines on his own as a hyper carry. That is where his real potential lies. A lot of people did realize that, and so a lot of people ended up regretting, not picking him up because of the stuff he can't do. And now with the meta shifting away from purely AoEs, so his bounce has the less disadvantage, because bounce, usually when it's 3 to 1 enemy, it's at its strongest. With 5 enemies, it can get a bit iffy. Anaxa did run into that problem, not as much as other characters, but he did slightly have that problem. but with the enemies going back to 3 enemies to 1 enemy, he gets an insane jump from that. Thankfully, with the Noxa, his vertical investment isn't really insane. Like, his light cone is really good. It allows you to get 2-turn ults really quickly. More defense shred, more damage dealt, and so on. His E1 is kind of pretty bad, especially for a 3.x Eidolon. But his E2 is really good. You know, you can set up second skill right away, pretty much. You can have the ult-up res lower, which is going to be good for everyone's damage. So there might be people considering that as well, because his E2 is still really strong. His E1's kind of whatever, but his light cone is also really good. And if you're someone who still wants to get him for the Herda, then I guess he's going to be running for that as well. He did end up getting a lot of skips just because, you know, he was not really shined in people's eyes. As I mentioned, people woke up to his potential later. And it didn't really help that he was right before the anniversary character being Castress, so she got all the marketing, he didn't, so most people just went crazy on her, and then didn't have any summons left over, and didn't really consider Noxa at all. But now he's rerunning, and that's going to be crazy. And it's also really funny because the new Danheng is really good with a Noxa. New Danheng provides great shields on Anoxa's team. Anoxa technically can make Danheng do more damage as well. Since Anoxa with some vertical investment has defense shred, he makes enemies have implanted weakness, so you can always make them weak to physical to make Danheng do more damage. Danheng also does buff him with the attack percent buff. He also has a really good shield to make you practically take no damage. Like, his shield is really, really strong. On a hyper carry Anoxa team, often you pair with Sundays, so that means Anoxa and a -1 setup Sunday is going to be very prominent. And there's a really funny interaction where Danheng's actual dragon gets action advance with Sunday. So you put the dragon onto Anoxa, and when you do get the action advance on Sunday, it's, you know, Anoxa acting, and then you get the dragon to act right after. If you have charges, it becomes an attack. If you don't, then it's just a shield refresh. So yeah, really funny interaction with that. And so Anoxa is definitely going to be a character that a good amount of people are going to go for. A lot of people that just have him either S0 probably want to pick up his S1 because it is really good. For him as a hyper carry, again, is really good. For him as a sub DPS, it's exceptionally good as well because it does have the energy. Some big Anoxa fans that maybe didn't get too lucky on his first banner probably are going to go for E2 because it's really strong. And majority of people have woken up to the fact that he is an insane hyper carry on his own, so it's really funny. They ended up pairing Evernight and also Castress while pairing Danheng and Anoxa, so they're pretty much just rerunning characters that work really good together. They have done that in the past, and they've done it a lot, and they probably will keep doing it, so I guess it's pretty safe to expect a new character that might be insane being tied to a rerun of the character they're going to be the team on, at least. But yeah, it really does seem like the actual whole update is going to be 3.6 first half, Evernight plus Castress, while second half being Danheng and Anoxa. Respective characters work insanely well together. Again, Castress plus Evernight is going to be Castress's overall best in slot team as of now, while Danheng is seeming to be the best in slot sustain for Anoxa teams as well. So if you like both these characters, you're missing parts on them, then you have to pick up Evernight and Danheng. It's going to be really brutal on the wallet. But that does practically wrap it up. If you guys are going to be going for a combination of these characters, let's say maybe you're picking up E1, E2 Castress, one of their light cones, plus Evernight, plus all this stuff, let me know what you guys are going to be summoning on if these do end up being the reruns. Again, do take this with a grain of salt because it can be slightly altered or completely altered when 3.6 stream does happen. Best thing you can do is to wait for the official live stream because they will officially announce the streams, and that will be the reruns that do happen in 3.6. So again, even though this is reliable, take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, again, feel free to comment down below what selection are you guys going to be summoning on. Are you guys chilling, you already have them, or you don't care about them, you're going to be skipping, or are you going to be going for a bunch of them? Let me know. Peace out.